Hello everyone. We're now going to do a quick tutorial on how to use the ROI analysis projection spreadsheet we have provided as part of this training. So you've already gone through our slides and you know what ROI or return on investment is. You know some associated terms like financial value and project cost. Project cost is basically defined by the budget for your project, which we have in this spreadsheet tab here. And financial value is largely determined by your projected revenue, which is under our return tab here. For this spreadsheet, we've made some assumptions. Your own project will come with its own assumptions when you do this analysis, but we've made an assumption that the project life cycle is 3 years. Money is made at a fixed rate per year. Money will be made for 10 years total, and no unforeseen losses or issues are taken into account in this analysis. That's particularly important to note because oftentimes it is good to assume some hiccups, but you have to know some things beforehand to make those assumptions. So if you're not going to make those assumptions up front, you need to note it at the beginning of your analysis. So your budget is going to be broken into fixed costs, which include one-time costs and capital costs. One-time costs could be lab fees. Capital costs could be something like large equipment, like test equipment. Labor is usually a value that comes from understanding hours associated with a task and then a labor rate per hour. In our return, for our projected revenue for this project, we have assumed a fixed revenue per year. So maybe let's put a number in so you can kind of see how this spreadsheet's starting to work. Our fixed revenue, let's throw a number out as $50,000 per year. We know it's fixed across 10 years because of our assumptions, so we make the same value across all 10 years. And you see down here that we have some things starting to happen. And these will make some more sense once we start putting in our budget. But this return summary is basically going to be a visual representation of our 10 years, understanding that our first 3 years are when the only costs are really going to come up. And we can see visually how our project is progressing from a financial standpoint, or how we project it to. And this is helpful for managers and people high up because they like visual representations better than just big spreadsheets full of numbers. This cell here is going to be an actual calculated ROI, calculated the same way we talked about in our tools slide in our presentation. So if we go back to budget and we say we have a fixed cost of lab fee, icing, and we have icing test equipment, for instance, and lab fee for year 1 is $5,000 and test equipment was $10,000, and then maybe in year 2 we have lab fee altitude and altitude test equipment. Those happen in year 2, and we want to say $5,000 for that as well, and maybe only $5,000 for this test equipment. We can always add lines here for more fixed costs, but maybe let's assume year 3 we don't have any fixed costs, which often happens. You don't have more fixed costs the further along a project gets. So then, we have icing test, we have altitude test, and we have some arbitrary task 3 like test reports are happening during the 3rd year. So for icing tests, our labor costs $20,000, and that's in year 1. And maybe in year 2, altitude test costs us $20,000 in labor. And then our test reports cost us $100,000 in labor. So we see our totals have been going up as we've been putting our numbers in, And our project total, it has now gone up as well. If we have coded in these values for you. If you're going to start adding lines, you'll have to update these formulas yourself. Hopefully you're a little Excel savvy and you can do that. Or you can watch another tutorial on YouTube or somewhere on how to use Excel, but we won't address that here. If we go back to our return tab, we can see that our projected total net revenue that we found before is $500,000, which leaves us with a really high ROI. And that's really good. The higher the ROI, the better. It's just one metric that a manager should take into consideration when deciding if a project is financially viable, but it is an important one. You can see our return summary reflects that we have a sharp increase in year 4 for our projected return in dollars, and then it steadily increases across the years, and that's because we are making a steady flow of cash per year. So this is a basic ROI analysis projection spreadsheet. It's a really helpful tool to start with if you're just starting out in project management. And we hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial.